Thank you. Good afternoon. Today is Monday, December the 9th. This is the regularly scheduled Athletic Commission meeting. Everything has been noticed on the Commission's website. My name is Roxana Gamusio. I'm the Executive Director with this program. In order to get started, I'm going to go ahead and take roll call to make sure that we have quorum members. Thank you for being here. And if you can make sure to unmute your mic to let me know that you're here when you have a motion or questions. Only 4 mics can be on at the same time. So if yours isn't picking up, it's because one of us hasn't turned it off. Ricky Goodrich.
Here.
Thank you. Ben Grove.
Here.
Dan McGrew.
Here.
And Corey Cipolla.
Here.
Thank you. And we have everyone present. We'll be able to proceed. I have us starting right at 2 o'clock. Notice of this meeting was properly put on the Commission's website, including the date, time, and location. It's been on the site since June 13th of 2023. This particular agenda has been added to the website since December the 2nd. Members, as you know, any members from the public that would like to comment on any of the items listed on the agenda are able to do so. They can sign up on this board that we've got at the front if they're participating through Teams. Dana is on the meeting with us, so is John from our team. One of them will let us know that they've got their hand raised, and we'll make sure to allow for plenty of time at the end. If the speakers, or if there are several, we may limit it to 3 minutes, but otherwise, when we get to new business, I'll make sure to take a minute to let everyone participate. The first item of business on your agenda is to go ahead and accept the agenda as it's been presented. If there are any changes, we can add those to it right now. Otherwise, we would need a motion to accept the agenda.
I'll make that motion. I second.
Thank you. We have a motion by Ben and a second by Ricky. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed?
Aye.
Hearing no. Thank you. The next item, and this, along with the agenda and the redacted minute legal report, have been sent to everyone for your review prior to the meeting. The next item on your agenda is the September minutes. That is also on your agenda, on your iPads, members. If you've got any questions, please let me know. Otherwise, this would be the actual first agenda minutes from the September regularly scheduled meeting. If you have no changes to those minutes, I would need a motion to accept the September minutes first and then the special meeting that we held.
I make a motion to accept the September minutes as written.
I'll second.
Thank you. We have a motion by Dan McGrew and a second by Corey Cipolla. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none. Thank you, members. And this is a separate set of meeting minutes. In October, we held a special meeting. It was a short Teams call, and we had quorum in order to proceed. That starts on your iPads on page 4. If there are no changes to it, we would need a motion and a second to accept that.
Second.
I'll make that motion.
Yeah, you'll make it, and I'm second.
Thank you. We have a motion by Ben Grove and a second by Ricky Goodrich. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Thank you. Hearing none. The next item of business is our financial situation, or our budget. You have before you the closing numbers for fiscal year 2023, 2024. That starts on page 5. This is the final report. It reflects 4 years. It's a good report to look at some of the trends. We added a surplus of $161,747 to our budget, leaving the final reserve at $96,271. As our members will recall, we had several years where we were at a deficit, and so the increase to 2024 has really helped us be self-sufficient and also have a reserve balance. The next page is a reflection of our numbers through October 2024, so it does include the first 4 months of the year. We added an additional surplus of $35,790, bringing our final reserve at $132,061. Any questions regarding any of that information?
What was our moneymaker that got us the extra 35,000?
So we actually had media coverage in 2 different events, and those media checks make a big difference. And so for fiscal year, and ended up being, significant enough to get us out of the red and the surplus as well. So it was 2 main events that, was
Excellent.
able to help. If we have no other questions, and again, the numbers, at least right now, look good. We haven't had any fee increases. This is just those events that are a little bit larger so that the gross receipt tax isn't the minimum. And if there's media coverage, that's a big plus always. So I will turn it over now to Jesse Gentry for the legal report, and that starts on page 7 on your iPads.
All right, good afternoon. So we've got a pretty short legal report today, so I will read the summaries into the record so we can discuss them. But the first case, which is complaint number 20240457771, this is a complaint against a combatant. The summary is the respondent is a mixed martial arts fighter whose drug test came back after his fight. However, he was subsequently granted a retroactive therapeutic exemption. And as the respondent's retroactive therapeutic use exemption was granted, it's recommended to close this case. Just some procedural history. This was opened based on that drug test, and then after the complaint was opened is when we received that therapeutic use exemption, which is why there is a complaint and the recommendation to close. Is there any discussion on this, or would you like to review?
Do we have any details on what the therapeutic
Not necessarily on the
exemption was for?
exemption's use, but we did know what the substance was. Since there was a therapeutic use exemption, I did want to kind of remove some of that information because that is typically sensitive information. We have a statute about trying to limit some of the health information that comes out, and because he was granted therapeutic use, that was not necessarily included.
So I guess my question is, who granted the therapeutic use? Who makes that decision?
The testing provider. I guess they were the ones who went through everything because they were the ones who indicated that it was granted.
Do you know who our testing provider is in the state of Tennessee? Or is it per?
We don't use one, so I believe it's based on, not sure what the noise is, but we do know the name of them if that's something we want to look at later. They are a larger organization.
Okay. Yeah, I guess I'm just curious, what the substance was that was found in their system. If it was therapeutic, if it was something that was minor and is used for heart condition or some other condition, that's one thing. But if it's testosterone that's used for PRT or something, then that's
They
totally
probably
different.
can't divulge some stuff because there are HIPAA laws that can't be.
But
And that's what I was going to say. Since if there wasn't a therapeutic use exemption, I think we would have just discussed more of the.
Gotcha. I guess if it's TRT or something that would be disclosed, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Let me ask you something. So he got drug tested, and it came back positive, right?
Yes.
And then he challenged it and went to court, or I used to run this for the military. I did it for a long, long time.
Right.
So I'm kind of, if he was hot, he was hot. But I mean, they should have told us ahead of time, or
It came from, so the testing provider is the U.S. Anti-Doping Agency.
Right.
And they were the ones who informed us of the failed drug screen, I guess then he applied to them to get that additional information.
Okay.
And that is when they told us that they had granted the therapeutic use.
Good enough.
But some of the, especially based on the fact that it was granted, we're not necessarily seeking a violation. So you are right. There are some health-related laws surrounding, the drug test as well as the other medical information. Since we're not necessarily recommending to proceed with a formal case. If we were, then that information would have to be disclosed to the commission. But just out of respect for trying to, comply with those laws at this point, that is why we did not disclose that. I'm pulling it up just to make sure if there's any other information to provide that would not be inflammatory.
Fair enough.
I think from review of it as well, there was not a concern of it being something that would be performance enhancing based on the nature of it.
Going back, did we vote to accept the budget update, or did we need to do that?
We don't. That's
We
just
don't.
information.
Okay.
Yeah, good question. Thank you, sir.
If you'd rather on this complaint, if you'd rather push it to the next meeting and, we can see if there's more information to provide without getting into too many details, we could do that as well. Or if you want to discuss it further, or the other alternative would be to make a vote on the recommendation.
Do they drug test before and after, or what?
I believe it is only after, is my understanding.
Okay. And we don't do that. You have somebody else come in and do it that's supposed to know what they're doing.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
And I know some of the larger organizations will do them periodic for their fighters.
Yeah.
I haven't talked to this specific promotion company to see how often they're drug screening other
Right.
than this specific instance.
Thank you.
I think possibly what you were concerned about is whether, where it says here that the drug test came back, of course it was afterward, if he was granted a retroactive therapeutic exemption before the fight on that, or right after when he came back positive, then he was granted the exemption. Was he granted the exemption before?
So it was that's a good question. So he, just laying out the sequence of events, he participated in the fight. He was drug tested. That came back positive, or I guess at least the drug test came back after the test or the fight was when we received the results. That was positive, so the complaint was opened at that point based on the positive drug test. We were told that they were still looking into everything, and the therapeutic use exemption was granted retroactively, so they did not consider it a positive drug screen at that point.
So this individual, the next time he fights, he will already have that in his record as being something that's going to show up.
I would imagine that would be the case. I think it could depend if there's a different testing provider or if he fights for a different promotion. Those are all, I think, considerations that he would have to make sure he's aware of. Just from my interactions with other drug testing organizations that we've used professionally for other offices in the state, I know that typically they're asked ahead of time for this type of information. So I think that it would be on him to provide that ahead of time. But this agency may be able to hold on to that. If he fights again pretty recently, they may look into that and consider all of that at that time. But is it possible that he tests positive and then has this same kind of situation? I think it could happen, but it depends, I guess, if he's still using that substance, if he's informed them that he's still using it, and if he was to test positive for it.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions or discussion?
On the second one, the second infraction, I guess two things. One, has there ever been a complaint with this fighter before? And secondly, the consent order with the 3-month suspension that you're advising, is that anything to do with, like, it says an offer to settle the matter, but, like, is that an offer that we're putting up, or we're having them discuss between?
So for
Two
the
parties.
second complaint, is what you're asking. So on the second complaint, our recommendation for that, based on the failure to appear at that fight, obviously this is a different fighter than the first one. This was a individual. He didn't appear for the actual bout. I think he had left right after the weigh-in, is what it sounds like from the way the promoter described it. Our offer to settle it with a consent order would be, that's our offer to settle it. If he doesn't agree to it, we could go to a formal hearing on that. But that 3-month suspension, we had recommended that on a previous complaint involving similar allegations. I think that recommendation seems more appropriate necessarily because, you know, if we charge him, we could charge him a civil penalty. We could say, you know, you owe $250, $400, $500. But that money does come back to us. It doesn't go back to the promoter. If we suspend him for a period of time, one, it becomes a public disciplinary record, so it would be on his record that he had failed to show up for a fight. Two, I think he may be more likely to resolve it if he's not paying an additional an amount for that. You know, the promoter can obviously go after him civilly for any amounts that are due, but this would prevent him from fighting in Tennessee for 3 months based on if he agrees to that. And then three, it's just another way to resolve this without having a formal hearing. So if he doesn't agree to it, if he doesn't agree to the terms of the consent order, you know, we can set this for a formal hearing. He can come before the commission, explain his side of the case, and then the commission can ultimately issue an order similar to what we did on the formal hearing several months ago with that individual. But I think for these cases where a fighter fails to appear, you know, the promoter does have, that's typically where the promoters filed the complaint with us, is they're out of money and they're upset about it. So they want the commission to take action. And I think an offer to voluntarily suspend his license is probably a little bit more equitable. It prevents him from, you know, fighting immediately after this, trying to start something or start a new fight or get into a new bout where he might do the same thing. And it becomes a public record as part of his file.
Yeah, that's fair. So if we make the recommendation for this and we do a formal hearing later, do we have the ability to change the suspension time limit if it's if we don't like his answers?
Oh yeah. So if we had a formal hearing on this, you know, the commission would be authorized to assess a penalty of up to $250,000, suspend or revoke his license, and assess all court and investigatory costs.
Okay.
So,
because I know there's two sides to every story.
Right.
So like I'd like to hear him out first, but
right. Well, and it's a situation too. You know, if he does end up, you know, sometimes when we send these consent orders, individuals will see that, you know, there is some potential ramifications. They'll explain their side of the story, and if it is something where there's a reason why they left or a reason why they didn't appear, we can always represent that to the commission and make a new recommendation and reconsider it. But as of today, you know, if the commission accepts this decision, there's no suspension that immediately occurs unless he signs it and agrees to it.
Do you know if this individual, how long he's been licensed in the state of Tennessee?
He was first licensed in September of 2024, so this, I believe, was his first fight that he was licensed in our state.
And where is he from?
I can check on that. I believe he is out of state. I'm just going to confirm.
Okay, but
just for the cost of travel, I would say $1,800. They probably flew him in.
He is from a neighboring state.
So this was his first time supposedly boxing in the state of Tennessee, and he's only had his license just for a little short time this year. But the promoter is out $1,800, but the promoter does have the right to try to get that reimbursed from that individual himself.
Right. He could go
Correct.
through civil court and try to, allege a breach of contract or some other
Right.
type of damages based on this.
I know for me anyway, this particular recommendation, 3 months, that doesn't seem to, I don't think that would probably get his attention anyway. I would recommend something a little more severe than that as far as the amount of time. So if we don't go along with this recommendation, we can set a hearing for
Correct.
this individual.
Well, and you could actually change this is just the recommendation, but if you wanted to decide on offering to settle it with a 6-month suspension, a 1-year suspension, that is something, this is just an offer to settle the case at this point. So, if you wanted to increase that settlement offer, you could certainly do so.
Yeah, I think 3 months is really not much of anything. Maybe, in my opinion, maybe 6 months to a year. Probably 6 months at least. Individual's his first fight here. He probably is not going to fight that many more times anyway. So at least 6 months, I would say. Maybe that would get his attention.
I think that's fair. So, if you guys are okay with that, I'll make a motion to accept both recommendations from council, and with the change of 3 months suspension to 6 months.
That's a good motion. You're good
I
with
second that.
Anderson. Oh, no.
We have a motion. Did we have a second? Yes. Was that you, Dan? I apologize.
Yes, it was.
Thank you. We have a motion by Ben and a second by Dan. All those in favor of accepting the recommendation for the first case as written, and on case number 2, changing the suspension from 3 months to 6 months. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none. Thank you, members. Jesse, this is still with you.
All right, great. And we do have 2 updates for our rules. The first one's very exciting. The Attorney General's office has approved the bare knuckle boxing rules and has signed off. They actually signed on those December 5th, and I filed them with the Secretary of State's office on that same day. So unless the General Assembly Joint Government Operations Committee decides to hold them, they will be effective on March 5th. So that would be the earliest that bare knuckle boxing could legally occur in the state. So that's exciting. We sent our e-notification out to our licensees. So if you all are signed up, you probably would have received an email earlier today. But I anticipate, since there are some bare knuckle promoters that have specifically signed up for that, I anticipate they will probably reach out to us shortly. But it is exciting news there. So we anticipate we might receive applications before then, but they wouldn't be able to occur. The bouts couldn't occur until early March. And then there is another update. At our last meeting, we had discussed setting a rulemaking for amending our waivers process and the way that we use the ABC's rules, being able to default to those instead of amending every time the ABC updates its rules. And the governor's office has signed off on our paperwork for that. So they actually signed off on that this morning. So I will be filing that rulemaking to set that at our March 10th meeting. We will hold public comment on that and move forward with that process. But it's not a huge rulemaking packet, so I don't anticipate it will take a substantial amount of time to go through. But that will help, I think, speed up some of our process for how we accept promoters that want to do some different things, want to use some different styles of events, and the way that we consider our authority to grant those waivers. But that paperwork should come through with the Secretary of State. I think we'll file that this week, and there'll be another e-notification that comes out for that. So if you all are signed up for that on our Get Notified section of our website, you'll see that. But if not, we can assist making sure you're signed up, because there's good information that comes, whether it's legal changes or regulatory changes. We make sure that the public's updated on that.
Now, just to be clear, that gives you and Roxanne the authority to approve different shows or whatever, and we not have to have a special meeting each time that there are rule changes.
For some of those. For most of those, they'll
most of
still
those.
come to the commission. It
Right.
does update, because our current rule really looks to whether or not it's a hardship, and this, kind of expands that a little bit to see if it can be done safely. We'll be able to grant some more of those exemptions. Just, use an example, a lot of the things that we waived related to the rules for karate combat, for example. If you remember, they had specific apparel they wanted to use, and we, had our special set meeting for that, discuss that. Some of those, we wouldn't have to necessarily justify as a hardship. Instead, we'd be able to amend the rule, kind of expand how we can look at some of those waivers. But for the most part, I think the health, safety, and welfare questions will still come to the commission. So a lot of those, they will still come to you all.
So I know we talked last time about the power slap, and that would be like a waiver on the MMA rule set, correct?
I think that's probably the best way to look at it.
Would that go through us, though, or would that be something?
I think we would
you
have
just
to go
approve?
through the commission.
Okay.
And if Power Slap did want to, hold an event in Tennessee, I think it would be easiest if they reached out specifically for a waiver to look at it first. Just from, general knowledge of Power Slap's rules, it's either possible that it would, one, need a waiver, or two, may not fit within the definition of unarmed combat, which would mean it wouldn't be regulated at all. So if it is regulated, it would likely come through a waiver of the MMA rules to use that rule set. So I think the easiest way, if someone wanted to hold a Power Slap event, would be to contact the commission. That way we can look at all the rules to see whether or not it would need a waiver or not. Just kind of looking at it generally based on my understanding, I would prefer if that came through us that way, so we can actually look at the specific rules they use.
Okay, great. I was looking to reach out to some people about trying to get them in, so.
Yeah, if you want them to reach out to Roxana, she can, make sure that we look at that and get that to the commission to review.
Sounds good, thank you.
And I think that's it for our rules update. I did want to let you all know the legislative session has started with the General Assembly. So if we do have any questions about any bills that come through that reflect the Athletic Commission, obviously we'll review those and make sure that the commission's updated if there are any changes. But certainly if you all hear from anything, let Roxana know. I don't anticipate, I haven't heard any legislative changes related to the commission's laws, but we will make sure to update you all if anything does get filed.
Can you tell me, where are we on the rule change, or you were going to be drafting a request about the address?
That's
of the
included
officials?
that's a good question. I'm sorry, that is included with the rules set for, that we will set for March 10th.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Members, if we've got no other questions under new order of business, I just want to make sure that anyone that is in the room, and I don't see anyone needing to ask questions or participate on the items presented, has an opportunity. Dana, if you've got anyone, I think it's just our team that is on the call, but if you have anyone through Teams, can you let me know if anyone has asked a question or addressed the agenda?
There's nobody else logged on.
Thank you, Dana. Members, there's no other items as far as comments from the public, so I will turn it back over to you and Chairman McGrew if you've got any other items before we adjourn.
I have no other items. If any of the other commission members have anything?
Nope.
Then I guess if that's all, we are ready to adjourn.
Can we get a motion to adjourn, if I can?
I make a motion to adjourn this meeting.
Thank you, Chair. Do we have a second?
I second.
Thank you, and all I know will be in favor. Thank you so much, members, for being here and the very efficient meeting. Happy holidays. We won't see you all. Our next meeting is March the 10th, also in this room. If you need anything between then, reach out to Jesse or I. Thank you. Thank you, Dana.
Thank you.